Hello and welcome back to GTA San Andreas. Today we, do exactly what we did last time, I guess. Again. However, things are a little bit different. I thought of a fun topic. Preemptively this time. So, you guys know about this thing called, oh, damn it. So you guys know about, this thing called physics. You know how a lot of older games have, like, a lot of older games have physics tied to the frame rate or whatever?
That shit look painful.
Well,
Get out of here.
have you ever wondered why? First of all, for, like, NES games and SNES games, is because there is such little headroom for you to actually program stuff in that you just can't. In order to do physics that are, like, per frame, you know, to have compensation, you would either need, like, a lookup table, or, like, you know, some other bullshit, which would be really intensive and annoying to implement on an 8-bit NES. However, then, as consoles improved around the PS1 era, when multiplication and division weren't, you know, literally impossible, though division still took a lot of cycles, a lot of games decided to implement, like, you know, variable frame rates and physics that rely, you know, on per frame rate stuff. And this worked very well. In a game like Donkey Kong 64, the physics will compensate for you know, moving. Basically, the game knows it's gonna lag. So, instead of just slowing down, the game will basically have a multiplier. So, like, let's say you move an X amount of speed per frame. If, like, the frame rate drops by 50%, you move 50% faster, and everything else does. This is the most primitive way of doing it, and pretty functional. Except if you've watched a speedrun of Donkey Kong 64, you may know that on original hardware, or on accurate emulators, when there's lag, let's just say there are some unintentional side effects to, you know, that design decision. Where basically, if you don't know, in Donkey Kong 64, because of the janky way Rare implemented the collision, when the frame rate drops, because I think the game doesn't do a raycast when it tries to do the collision. To quickly explain that, a raycast is basically, so, like, the way, I'm gonna speak out of my ass a little bit, the way a lot of FPS games detect where you're shooting is, they basically cast a ray out of your cursor, like, out of the little aiming reticule. Sometimes, if there's a bit of an accuracy, like, to simulate an accuracy, the game may have, like, a random value it will shift the raycast origin point from. But generally, like, it'll cast a ray, check if it intersects with, like, an object. In this case, it was a bolus head, and then, there you go. That's basically hit scan, right? And you can use hit scan, or raycasting or whatever, for, you know, I mean, you can use it for rendering. Doom's rendering basically worked with, you know, a similar sort of thing. But more importantly, you can use it for collision. Because what you can do is, if there's, like, a really thin object, if you're moving too fast, there's always a risk that your character could, you know, glide through it. So some intelligent developers realized if you do a raycast for every object's movement, you can basically fix that. Because then instead of the raycast, you know, because, you know, the object will first do a raycast to see if there's an intersection, and then if it sees there's no intersection, it'll then try to move the object. Of course, that is the simplified version. There's, you know, a lot of other stuff, like, realistically, you would need some kind of volumetric raycast, you know? Because if you'd imagine if a CJ, or like if a car hits halfway into like a traffic pole, the raycast may think he can, you know, continue going forwards if the object that you're intersecting with is smaller than you. So there may be some jank there, but, like, I'm trying to explain to you the general sort of thing, right?
Give me that grip.
And because of the Rare developers not implementing the system and just using a much simpler thing, also, hey, look at our ammo count. Ooh, spooky. That's like 10 devils. Actually, a bit more than 10. But point is, if you actually wanna fix this, you're gonna have to, you're gonna have to do some weird stuff.
What you say to me?
Like making a coherent, you know, collision model. Though sometimes, some issues may arise. Sometimes a game may have physics that are per frame, you know, sorry, physics that are like in San Andreas, where most features of the game run fine, regardless of frame rate. Though if you've ever swam in the game, you know that swimming at over 30 FPS causes, slow issues because... What? He's... Oh, I'm stupid. He's over there. I thought he was in the wall. Okay, but you get me. So that's a very sorta... Oh, there's two of them.
To get uglier. Hey, give me that paper.
But yeah, that's the point. Like, it's difficult. Now, a way some games do it, like, for instance, Minecraft, is they basically run, like, we're talking the modern versions, so, the internal frame rate is 20, and then the game will interpolate between that with the graphics engine to give you, you know, multiple frames of motion. So 20 physics FPS, you know, that's like a tick, and then you have the frame rate. Now that does have, like, that does have some, like, side effects that may be a little bit unwanted, but generally speaking,
look, a cat.
These kinds of systems are, like, you know, take the Rare system of speeding, you know, of using a multiplier for this stuff depending on the frame rate, plus, like, an internal frame rate basically ensures that, physics aren't moving too fast, and when physics are moving slow, that things still stay consistent, you know? It's, using those two systems you can have that. And, it is really complicated. Like, it's easy for me to explain it to you, right? And I could possibly, like, come up with, like, if I was a 90s developer in a, you know, locked in my development office trying to figure out how to make Crash Bandicoot work, I would probably figure that out. Except, of course, you know, I would figure out the first one, not the second one. And speaking of, it is crazy how many PS1 games that do not drop frames still have that feature. As you know, a lot of Nintendo's games, like, you know, a lot of, even some of the Switch games, like 3D World, they run, or like the 2D ones, like, you know, New Super Mario Bros. U or whatever, they run at 60 FPS. If the frame rate dips, the game slows down, because the game is designed to, under, you know, regular situations, not slow down. This may sound like bad game design, but it's actually not bad. Okay, when I say it's not bad, I mean, like, it isn't necessarily... I mean, obviously, it would be better for it to... It's sensible game design, you know? There's a pretty huge difference between, like, I guess there is a difference, because a lot of the time, I see a lot of people who aren't into actual... Like, people who aren't programmers talk about game design from a player's perspective. But they don't understand it from, like, an actual, developer perspective. For why things are the way they are. Like, for instance, I remember somebody asking,
Give me that grip.
in, it's just a lot of stuff like optimization. If I had to ban one word from the gaming online, discussions, it would be optimize. Because
shit,
for every time I hear, like, for every time I hear that word used correctly, I hear, like, 50 billion people use it wrong. Both when they demand optimization, like being mad, Baldur's Gate 3 doesn't run at 4K Ultra 120 FPS, ultra-wide on their 1050 Ti,
Going in my retirement fund.
Both with that, and when people do that, like, and when people talk about something not being optimized, quote-unquote, without, like, you can become a grifter very easily by just telling people what they want to hear, and it's that game developers are, like, greedy, lazy, they aren't optimizing their games, and, like, man, you don't know what working conditions, like, a lot of Western AAA devs work under. Like, if you're gonna blame someone, you should blame publishers for wanting, like, endless amounts of non-repeated, like, photorealistic assets. If everybody just banded together and started making games that look like they're made for the fucking 360, like, everybody would be celebrating how finally Rockstar can make, like, a GTA in 2 years again. But that's not happening, is it? Gamers love their hyper-realistic textures, and I guess hyper-realistic blood if they're into, like, .exe games. But generally speaking, yeah, people love high-resolution assets, people love HD textures, people love it. Except a few people who like old, weird, manky games for some reason, and that's where I am. Why did you remove the RAM? Come on, game. Whatever. And, like, I guess I come from a really interesting perspective, because I know quite a bit about the back end of how stuff works, It's kind of like, I'm not a communicator, I guess. Like, I remember listening to some... I remember, like, I watched this one video on that, like, fucking... Blizzard QA tester guy. I don't fucking even know anymore what the story exactly is. The Pirate Software guy, the guy who has, like, a huge stake in a live service game. So he was super against stop killing games, and especially, stop destroying video games, the super successful European initiative in terms of how many votes he managed to get. But, like, point is, his code just screams, I didn't Google, like, how to anything, more than anything. And that's the thing, It's... I remember seeing some of the pieces of his code, like, for instance, his main event, thing, I call it an event stack. Well, the way I would do it, I called them event stacks, but his main way of tracking events in his RPG is basically just one long list of fucking booleans, and sometimes not booleans. And, here's where he goes wrong, because his approach is not necessarily incorrect, If this was a fucking NES game, RAM is tight, whatever, but, like, dude, you're making a game, make a game. no matter what you do, I'm gonna have to move to a neighborhood that's closer so we can connect them. But here's the thing, right? When you're making a game for something as simple as Game Maker, granted, I don't know if... Oh, thankfully we're here. I don't know how Game Maker handles objects. I know it doesn't handle booleans correctly. Like, it assumes they're reals for some reason. It's really dumb, and I really, really hate it.
Oh, you want this to
I really hate Game Maker. And you can use C++ in Game Maker to some extent, but I'm not sure exactly to what extent. I haven't played around with Game Maker. I thought about making like a shitty parody of an EXE game. Let me guess, you're not dead, Billy. There we go.
Hey, give me that paper.
I thought about making like a parody of an EXE game or whatever, but like, can't be asked, man. What? Hello, officer. Nothing unusual happening here. Let's take that neighborhood up north, I guess, then. What else was I gonna say? Oh, yeah. And the issue with his code isn't that it's fast. No, no, no. It is... I'm thinking about maybe making a video on this because I have written some assembly code just to, like, laugh about what optimization is, you know? Like, his code is optimized for speed when the last thing you want to do on code that is not final and that is continuously going to be updated and that does not need to be super time sensitive is optimize it. Optimizing something as simple as your fucking event thing for speed is just about, like, the biggest punch in the balls you can make. Because there's a difference between optimizing for speed and optimizing for, like, how easy you can modify it. And Pirate Software optimized his code for... I don't even know. But he didn't optimize it for the thing which matters. Because if you're going to make your piece of code function, ideally, like what I would do, is I would use objects. I would just have, like, you know, I would have objects that I would throw into, like, a list or a vector or something else that Game Maker supports, and I would make sure that that list or vector or whatever the fuck worked. Because that way, I mean, it'd be so much easier to do it instead of having to, like, say, okay, so when I do this, I have to activate, you know, if I'm going to the store and I buy milk, then I have to set event number 510 to 1. Why would I do that when I can just do, like, set event has gone to store, you know, set event going to store dot got milk equals true, you know? Why, you know, there's a lot of stuff that you could do. Oh, another thing which I would do is, considering how frustrating it seems to be to work with booleans on, Game Maker, I would also have, like, my own function whose only goal it would be to set stuff to true or to false, so it's easier. So what I would do is, like, I would say something like, instead of doing, you know, magic number 510 equals 1, you know, I would just do, like, a function called to true or to false, and then, like, you know, have the magic number, or I guess in my case, whatever the fuck, fed to it that way.
Hey, you too close.
There are a lot of ways
That's going in my
you can do this stuff, you know? And there are a lot of right ways to do it, and a lot of wrong ways. That's the magic about coding. Like, 50 different people could give 50 different solutions to a problem, and all be correct. That's kind of what's fun with coding. Though, again, you know,
You want some lead in you?
the big issue I found with Pirate Software is mostly that he seems to use his quote-unquote Blizzard credibility to try to talk about stuff he either has, like, you know, for stuff that I think he should either disclose, like him saying, you know, this would be like if Linus Tech Tips reviewed a bunch of non-framework laptops and talked about how bad all of them were, which, to my knowledge, Linus hasn't done that, or if, you know, like, it's just, if you're gonna be, like, an important higher-up person at a live service company, maybe mention that before you like, go bad-mouthing a movement that wants to make it so, like, live service games don't have as much power as, they currently do in terms of how they can, you know, take away your right to play them or whatever. Like, maybe you should tell people that first. Maybe it's a little bit scummy, you know? But it's one of those things where, with the way the internet works, nobody's ever gonna be fucking held responsible. Like, are you serious? Well, you think that Pirate Software is gonna be like, first of all, well, you think you'll change his mind by telling him he's wrong? Like, really? Have you been on the internet before? The number one thing which people do after they're told they're wrong is octuple down, call you, like, some kind of slur, and then octuple down again. People refuse to have their minds changed. It is just not something that you're gonna be able to do, you know? Wait, if I shoot these guys here, will this trigger a mission for that hood or for this hood? Oh, it will trigger it for this one, even if it's ballers. But then, oh yeah, more ballers will spawn. But yeah, point is, the only thing the Pirate Software stuff really does is, and that's, like, the only thing it really does is, I guess it, you know, tries to make people more aware of the situation, which is good. People should be made aware. But also, like, the idea that it's gonna make him change his mind, like, is just really funny. That's not how you have... Like, there was a point in time where it was actually, like, where on the internet, you could have actual debates and arguments of people, and there was an actual incentive to change people's minds. But we are, like, many, many years after that point.
This all you giving me?
These days, the only thing is to appear that you're correct. And that's basically the only thing which matters. That has been true for a while now, but especially as of late, it's just becoming more and more true. I have tried my best to, you know, and people will always either, people have a tendency to agree with the person whose video they're watching, and people will also then speak up the moment they disagree. So, for instance, a video that has 80, like, let's say you make a video on a slightly controversial gaming topic, like, no, Dragon Age the Veilguard didn't fail because it has a woman in it, you know? It instead failed because they made a different type of game to what the fans wanted, on, like, a fundamental gameplay level, from what I understand. Something like that, right? And you could have a 90% like ratio, you know, and then you'll have 10% of the, like, angry chud masters who are really mad at you for, you know, saying the sky's blue. And you'll have a bunch of mean comments from them, even if the vast majority of the people who watch the video agree with you. So then you look at all those comments and you're like, first of all, you know, you're like, wow, a lot of people, you know, think that I'm wrong and stupid, but no. The majority of the people actually liked the video. Similarly,
Hey, what's cracking now?
Like, you're gonna have situations where, like, you have, like,
Give me that money.
you know, the opposite, I guess, where if somebody's like Chudmaster and they're watching your video, they're gonna go to the comments and they think, wow, everyone agrees with me, not understanding that the people who, you know, agree with you don't really have much to add most of the time, so they'll just leave the video, leave the video with a like and that's it. That's also why a lot of controversial, I am gonna call them controversial. That's why a lot of the stuff that I made that is more controversial, like the sort of comparison between, the N64 and the PS1, that's why a lot of those videos do so well. It's purely because a lot of people have, like, a nostalgia horse in the race. So whenever they see me make a video, they'll go there, and then they'll disagree with, like, an actual literal fact in the video. Like, I'll say something like, something like the N64's big issue was the fact that the cartridge couldn't fit that much stuff on it. And that really limited what you could do with a lot of the games on it. Which was, like, the main issue. That's why Squaresoft left Nintendo. That's why we didn't have Final Fantasy 64. And instead, like in the comments, you'll see a bunch of people who are like, actually, no, you're wrong, because, you're wrong. Did you know that cartridges have better durability?
You want to lay it in?
That sort of stuff. And I understand, and I agree with you, cartridges do have a better durability, but, like, the fucking cartridges. And, like, the point is, we can talk about this all fucking day. We can argue again and again and again that, like, And the point is, this arguing is what drives traffic. Like, having, like, my most popular videos be videos where I've had people argue with each other in the comments. That is the best possible thing you can have for views, honestly. Because then somebody will get a reply, they'll go back to your video, YouTube will count that as, like, extra watch time, because then they'll watch something, they'll watch a little bit of it to get some more context, blah, blah. And it's just like, Fuck, we should run behind the car.
You want to get smoked, baby?
Shoot him and then...
That's mine.
There's more of them coming. There we go. And, like, you can just kind of... And that's the issue. I don't like the controversial stuff. There was this one video from... Can't remember the guy, sadly. Like, the channel name. But, like, there was this one good video where a guy basically talked about, the whole modern gaming is collapsing or whatever. Where the guy basically baits you into watching the video, because the video isn't about modern gaming collapsing. Instead, it's about, the general sort of vibe of negativity for stuff online, and he's fully correct in that sort of stuff. Like, a lot of the time, people are gonna be, obsessed with online negativity. Well, this is a tiny-ass house. But in general, like, what else is there to say? I don't know. I guess there is one thing to say. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. This house is fucking tiny. Bye-bye.